You rush up the Dragon Spiral Tower, hoping you'll make it in time. But what you find leaves you in complete shock. You find the legendary Pokemon of Truth, Reshiram. Standing behind it, you see N, and you're already too late. This isn't what's supposed to happen. You should have been able to stop him by now. N turns to look at you. What do you think? How do you think of the beautiful form of the Pokemon who appears before and fights beside the hero that will lead away to a new world? You watch in complete surprise as without fighting or giving you any chance to stop him, he flies away to the Pokemon League, where he will take control of the entire region of Unova. This isn't what you expected. This is not how the story is supposed to go. But we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, aren't we? Since you clicked on this video, thanks by the way, you know what Pokemon is. I myself have been a fan of these games for about as long as I can remember. But for a long time I kept my distance from Black and White. Frankly, I was intimidated by the completely new Pokédex of Pokemon I've never really used before. But after getting the itch to play some Pokemon again, I decided to give it a shot. And I'm very happy I did, because in this game I found a story like no other Pokemon game I've ever played, all circling around this one character that I couldn't have possibly imagined that Game Freak could have ever written. Please relax as we get started, and truly, thank you for watching. Black and White was directed by Junichi Masuda, and yes, I did have to Google how to pronounce that name, who had been directing the series since Gold and Silver, and I got a feeling he was looking to change things up a bit. As much as I love these games, I would be lying to say that I don't go into a Pokemon game expecting a completely unique experience from the last Pokemon game. Junichi changed things up by doing several things. 1. The entire game was made up of Pokemon that had never appeared in any other game before, meaning the entire Pokédex was completely unique. And 2, he changed the story to be a lot more interesting in my opinion. Instead of the same old, go through the gym battles and stop the bad guy before they did anything bad, then go to the Pokemon League, they made the villains far more incorporated into the plot than in the past. This also included changing up the bad guys to be far more interesting, and weirdly political for some reason. But we'll get into that much later. Now, I've given some background stuff. It's time we get into the game itself. Shortly after the beginning of the game, you find yourself getting to one of the first towns. All seems normal when you see a man in a gray cloak named Gensis giving some sort of speech. You and your friends listen in to hear what he has to say, and he speaks of Pokemon liberation. He talks about how though humans think they and their Pokemon are partners, this is not the case, and that humans are in fact abusing and enslaving Pokemon for their own selfish desires. He calls that we must liberate our Pokemon by releasing them into the wild. This is your first encounter with Team Plasma and their leader Gensis, and they serve as this game's evil team that causes problems throughout, like Team Rocket. However, what makes them unique is that they don't seem too evil just yet. Sure, many of their actions are unjust, but they kind of have a point. What if humans are abusing Pokemon? In fact, after the speech, everyone in the crowd seems kinda confused as what to do. As the crowd leaves, a strange man with green hair walks up to you. He seems to agree with everything that Gensis is saying, and he also makes a strange claim that he can talk to Pokemon. He introduces himself as N, and he challenges you to a battle, and afterward he continues to talk about treating your Pokemon well. This is one of the many encounters you will have with N and Team Plasma. Team Plasma will continue to provide a constant threat by just being a nuisance everywhere they go, all while they keep talking about this apparent king that they have, who will be the one to bring forward Pokemon liberation once and for all. But back to N. Just like Team Plasma, he continues to fight you, but he does so in friendly little rival battles throughout the game. And he's never really a villain. Every time you talk to him, he seems to just want to talk to you about Pokemon and treating them well, and make you reconsider the whole Pokemon liberation thing. Unlike the Team Plasma leaders though, he doesn't try to talk down to you or seem like he has any ill intent. In fact, it seems he truly cares about his Pokemon and wants the best for them. And let's talk about his battles for a second. First, he has his own unique and mysterious and frankly very cool sounding battle theme. And for his team, normally in Pokemon, trainers you fight will have a team that stays mostly the same if you fight them more than once. But N's team changes with every battle. In fact, his team is always made up of Pokemon that can be found in the area, almost like he's some Disney princess going around and befriending every Pokemon he finds. This sets N apart as a character, much different from the rest. He gives off a bunch of mysterious vibes that makes you really wanting to know more about him. This all starts to climax as we head towards the later part of the game. You make your way to Nimbasa City, where you find more Team Plasma grunts running amok. That's when N sees you and tries to help you find where some of the grunts have run off to. And then he invites you to ride with him on a Ferris wheel? This scene is extremely strange, awkward, and weirdly intimate. It kind of reminds me of the 17th Angel from Evangelion, if you're familiar, and I mean that in the best way possible. And remember what I said about Team Plasma talking about their king? Well, N just drops that he is the king of Team Plasma, out of nowhere. No big reveal, no crazy twist, just a quiet exchange of words, and then he leaves. From then on, you and N are enemies throughout the game, and he continues to follow you, but he still doesn't try to talk you down like an enemy. However, but as a friend. I love this whole section. It's so strange and completely unexpected. You continue to fight Team Plasma and N like usual until you hear of a new plan they've started to put into motion. And to explain further, you'll need a little background information. Basically, in Black and White, there is an old legend of two brothers who shared a mighty dragon and ruled over all of Unova together. However, the brothers often argued between two sides, truth and ideals. And one day, their fighting grew so great that their legendary dragon Pokemon was split into two, Reshiram for truth and Zekrom for ideals. Now, back to Team Plasma. They plan to capture Reshiram or Zekrom, depending on which game you play, and use its power to allow N to become champion of the Unova region, which would give him the influence to complete Pokemon liberation. If you've played a Pokemon game before, this all sounds pretty normal. The story goes the same almost every time. The villain tries to capture their game's legendary Pokemon, fails miserably, and the player must save the day by capturing the legendary Pokemon, leaving the villain's plan thwarted. At this point, I was thinking the same thing was about to happen here. But I was so very, very wrong. I climbed up the home of Reshiram, the Dragon Spiral Tower, ready to find N flat on his face and have to save the day once again. Only to find that for the first time ever in a Pokemon game, the villain had successfully captured the legendary Pokemon, and there was absolutely nothing you could do about it. And if you've been paying attention, that leaves us right back to where we left off at the start of the video. To me, this is the point that defines Pokemon Black and White, where you, the player, have been completely defeated. It's such a subversion from expectations, you just feel so threatened. From here, there's only one thing to do. Go to the Pokemon League and hopefully defeat N before he can become champion. You rush through the rest of the game, all while you have this great feeling of urgency. That's when you meet Gensis once more, who reveals his true intentions to you. He never cared about Pokemon, but rather he planned to release all Pokemon so he can capture them all for himself, and rule over the region of Unova with an iron fist. This whole time he was manipulating N into believing in his cause, all so he could achieve his goals. And I love this. It wonderfully shows the relationship between the characters of N and Gensis, and makes you almost feel bad for N. This perfectly nice and frankly awkward guy is being completely used because of how much he cares about Pokemon, and will ultimately end up harming the Pokemon he cares about instead of helping them. Hey, this is me from the edit, and I forgot to mention that N was also basically adopted by Gensis as a child and brainwashed when he was like a toddler, which is really messed up, and I have no idea how I forgot that when I was writing the script. Okay, on with the video. With this added motivation, you remember that you have a job to do. You need to defeat N before it's too late. So you climb up Victory Road and beat the Elite Four, only to find that, once again, you've already lost. N has defeated the champion of Unova, and he has already become the champion himself. It seems all is lost, but here's where things get interesting. You see, throughout the game, N has had this interesting philosophy about Pokemon battles, which is that they can truly show the intentions of people in Pokemon. So he decides to give a chance, one last battle to decide the entire fate of Unova. And, okay, at this part I have to mention that N and Team Plasma kind of just like summon in a giant castle from the ground that they had at some point they had the time to build, but it's really cool, I promise, it's awesome. In this castle, N allows you to prepare for one last battle with it. But you can also look around and find various things showing some of the manipulation of Gensis and the strange psychology of N. Finally, after you've prepared, you go up to fight N, who talks about the legendary heroes of old, and how he'd hoped you'd get the other dragon by now, and he calls for his legendary himself. But just before the fight, the opposing legendary dragon, once again depending on the game, suddenly comes to fight by your side, to even out the scales and once again parallel to the legend of the two princes. This excites N, who allows you to capture the Pokemon before fighting you. The fight itself is honestly great, with an epic remake of N's normal battle theme playing, and N's very first Pokemon being his legendary dragon. But of course, eventually you win, leaving N in complete shock, leading him to realize that he was wrong about Pokemon all along. At this point, Gensis enters the room and he is completely enraged. Years of planning, all for nothing. He calls N worthless and defective before challenging you to a Pokemon battle himself, which he of course loses. After this loss, Gensis is captured, and N is still completely in shock. And you know what? I'm just gonna let the rest play out, just as it is. In conclusion, N is an incredibly interesting character that I don't think I've seen any other Pokemon game come even close to, nor do I think any new Pokemon game will. He still has many questions left unsolved, and several people have come up with theories, and there's also the anime which fills in some of the gaps, but honestly, I kinda don't want answers. I enjoy him just being this mysterious guy. Lastly, I wanted to thank you for watching this video, since it's actually the first video on this channel. If you want me to make more content like this, it would really make my day if you subscribed or just shared this video with a friend. I hope you have a wonderful day.